I'll be curious to see when our other guys get in here. We're not going live, so I've got to see. And there's no run game. We're not doing that against each other, and so you're not going to see that going on. But I liked what I saw from what I saw. It's got to be one of the better offensive line groups, young offensive line groups that we've had in here. It's just collectively.
The Kansas City Royals.
Cole Reagans leading the charge, making start number 8, and on a nice roll right now, Hud. He's given up just 2 earned runs over his last 11 innings. Change up, and that's a swing, and Reagans begins the night with a strikeout. Belted to right field. Back goes Freeland. He's all the way back, and the Royals are on the board. Michael Massey's 3rd home run of the year.
Take advantage of it.
Up the middle and into center field. The game is tied. And now the Royals take the lead with Frazier coming around. And Garcia goes hustling into second base. On the ground to short. Out at second. And double play.
That's exactly what you're looking for.
On the ground to Bobby Witt Jr. He has plenty of time, and the Royals win it. Come from behind. And the Royals are 2-2 on the homestand, beating the first-place Brewers tonight.
Yeah, well, the 2 walks were huge to get us going. And then the competitiveness in the at-bats was really good. I mean, these guys, we've seen it over and over. I know that the walks were in the 6th, but to drive up the pitch count to get to the bullpen, and they just don't quit. I mean, there's nothing. I wish I could put my finger on it and say, let's do that in the 1st. But for whatever reason, the game gets later and they come through.
Good morning, Kansas City. This is the Border Patrol on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Stephen St. John and Nate Bukaty with Jake Gutierrez. Thanks for joining us today on the show. We'll have Jamie Bloomer, Mark Bowrichter, and Annie Rogers with us to talk a little baseball, football, and other things. The Royals, you heard highlights there. They won last night 3-2. Over the Milwaukee Brewers. They started the game about a half hour early to try to avoid the rain. So good job out of them.
How about those Royals, huh?
And then the Royals flipped the script. They lost the game late on Sunday to the Texas Rangers. And so they returned the favor to the Milwaukee Brewers. Cole Reagans pitched a very good game again. 6 strong innings, only giving up a couple of runs. 2 hits, 2 runs, 2 walks, 8 strikeouts, but did give up a 2-run home run, and so he left the game down 2-0. And the Royals didn't answer until the bullpen was involved. So Nick Anderson ends up getting the win because he pitched a clean inning before the Royals were able to finally score, and they put up 3 in the bottom of the 7th. And then the bullpen holds on between Duffy, Will Smith with the hold, and then Chris Stratton made things interesting with a couple of walks in the 9th inning, but he got the benefit of a double play. And so the walks, that's scary when you got a guy in to close and walks the leadoff guy, but then erases out with a doubleheader, then walks another guy. Walks will kill you, but it didn't do it last night Stratton got away with it, but the Royals win 3-2, and a couple of the young stars coming through with big hits in that seventh inning, finally to break the zero off the scoreboard. Michael Massey hit a home run, and so he is performing well. He's shown some power since he's come off the IL, and he's certainly giving production at second base that the Royals were not getting before he came off the IL. And so after he hit a home run, Renfroe struck out, and then Velasquez pinch hit for MJ Melendez, got hit by a pitch, Frazier walked, and then Blanco reached on an infield single. So he had bases loaded with one out, and Maikel Garcia comes through with a 2-run single, turning a 2-1 deficit into a 3-2 lead. And then the Brewers correctly, intentionally walked Bobby Witt Jr. And this goes back to our conversation yesterday. Doesn't matter if Vinny Pasquantino's behind him. You do not pitch to Bobby Witt Jr. with the game on the line in an important situation. And again, that decision by the Brewers bared fruit because they intentionally walked Bobby Witt Jr. Up comes Vinny, man, in a perfect situation for him to come up and at least get a fly ball, do something, get the ball in play to get another run home, and Pasquantino grounds into a double play. And you're thinking, oh, boy, here we go again. The Royals had a chance to extend that 3-2 lead, at least get another run. That would be huge. Didn't do it, but the bullpen made it hold up and got through it, and the Royals win 3-2. But until the Royals make some teams pay by intentionally walking Bobby Witt Jr., that's going to keep happening. It just is. And like I said yesterday, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who's back there. Vinny was behind him. It made no difference. They'd rather pitch to Vinny. And wouldn't you? It's the right decision. And that's no knock against Vinny. Vinny Pasquantino is a very, very good hitter. Now, he didn't do his job last night in that situation. He'd be the first one to tell you. He grounded into a double play. You got to at least get a fly ball. Got to get one run home there. One more run. Give yourself a two-run lead. But got to get used to it. It's frustrating. We don't like it. We want to see Bobby Witt Jr. hit with the game on the line. He appears to be very clutch early in his career. He's clearly a wonderfully talented hitter that is a big problem for opposing pitchers. Big enough to where, I mean, that's the book right now. Late innings, close game, runners on base. No, we're not pitching to you, Bobby Hitt Jr. And until the Royals make teams pay, it's the right decision. And guess what? It just might be the right decision, period, moving forward. I wouldn't pitch to him. Teams aren't going to pitch to him 7th inning on with the game on the line. And then who knows, maybe you get a manager that's not going to give in. You know, that believes in his bullpen or likes the matchup. And they'll have the balls to pitch to Bobby Witt Jr. And maybe Bobby will remind them why they shouldn't. But that was a big moment last night. And honestly, I thought it was going to cost the Royals again. Like, oh, my God, they had a situation where you got your run producer up, you got Vinny up, you got the bases loaded, less than 2 outs. At the very least, come away with a run, make him pay for walking Bobby Witt, and he didn't do it. But hey, all's well that ends well. Royals win 3-2. Cole Reagans, again, doesn't get the win, but pitches well enough where he should have got the win. Royals just didn't score when he was out there. But you can't ask any more of Cole Reagans. And again, last night, great display of the young talent, the young nucleus. Cole Reagans, Maikel Garcia, Michael Massey. I love it. Very good.
Yeah, last night was like one of those. Well, the last 2 days, like one of those indications to why you have to play so many games in baseball to see who the best team is. Because, like, both of those games could have easily gone either way. And the deal for Michael Garcia, that ground ball, if it's 5 feet, 10 feet to the left or right, double play. But it's right up the middle, base hit, win the game. And those types of things take a long time to even out. The thing that I like so much about the Royals is they've won a lot of games this year by blowout fashion. And so you figure usually when you come to these close games, you know, some teams might be more clutch than others, but you're going to win some, you're going to lose some. And they were able to, you know, get a hit when they needed it last night. Having Massey back is huge because right now the only two guys that are really having good years offensively so far are Salvi and Witt. Like, Garcia's had moments, Vinny's had moments, Melendez had moments at the beginning of the year, but he's been ice cold. Like, overall, it's really just those two guys that have had really good offensive years so far.
Some people don't think much of Massey in his offensive ability.
Well, I don't know what he's going to be. But
some people also think they know everything, and they don't. So,
I think it's good having him in the lineup.
Oh, do you think it's better than what was out there before?
I think so.
Really?
This is my opinion, but we'll see. I think
you need to yell louder so people will.
Okay.
Trust in your
gonna
opinion.
be good.
There you go.
I do think if they stay competitive like this, they got to think about trying to acquire an outfielder that can hit. You know,
what's that supposed to mean?
Well, they don't have any outfielders that can hit right now.
Huh.
And that's, I mean, I was really hoping.
It's early.
It's early. And maybe Melendez will get hot again. I was really optimistic of the way he started the year, but right now it's looking.
He's getting pinch hit for. So.
Yeah. So to be 6 games over 500 with the production they're not getting from the outfield is really impressive. But if they stay like this and you get into the month of June and they're still within 3 games first place and they're well over 500, don't you think that's something? I mean, how much better would this team if they had a run production bat in one of the corner outfield spots?
I might knock on Drew Waters' door to see what he has to offer before I make any moves.
Sure.
Give him a look-see.
Or do both.
You know?
They could use more than one outfielder that can hit.
The Royals have allowed 2 runs or fewer in a major's most 18 games this year. Exactly half of their 36 games played. They're 16-2 in those games. That's the most such wins in the majors. They will exhaust the, I think, those options before they make a deal, but they would not be afraid to make a deal. They'd be aggressive, I believe.
I mean, I don't know the market that well, but you'd have to think there's some kind of rental player out there that you
the
can
Marlins
get
are already selling.
So there you go. Something you don't have to give up the farm for, but you could have, 3 months worth of good run production bat. Remember like they did with Rondell White back in 2003?
You can come up with an example since then that worked out better.
I mean, try to remember, like, I remember him acquiring arms in 14 and 15, but I don't remember him acquiring a bat in the middle of the season. Am I wrong?
Come on.
Raul Ibanez,
Come on, man.
Come on. Steven was banging this drum for years.
Come on, bruh.
Right? Are you thinking about the same guy I am?
I don't know. I don't try to guess what you're thinking.
That's good. It's good philosophy.
Is it?
Multi-position player.
Oh, Ben Zobrist. I mean, that would be a hell of a.
You don't think that was a good addition?
If they could acquire somebody like him, I wasn't thinking that big. I wasn't dreaming that big.
Wow, is it?
Right.
Of course, some people thought he was just a utility player when they got him. So.
Right. Oh yeah.
That's a pretty good bat to add to that lineup.
He was decent.
Some pretty big hits.
I remember watching him hit a home run in the ALCS with my son Ben in attendance. He thought that was pretty amazing. Yeah, something like that.
That worked out better than Rondell White, but
for sure. I was just thinking, like, if they didn't want to give up a whole lot because they're still trying to build this thing, but
now who they? No, go ahead.
All right. Yeah, Ben Zobrist.
Go ahead, man.
Thank you.
What do you?
There you go. Rondell White did have a cannon, man.
He was a good player.
Yeah.
Who was the other guy they went out and got? Oh. Well, Josh Willingham. Remember that?
Yeah, first baseman, right?
No one remembers.
I remember Josh Willingham.
What was that deal?
I mean, of course I remember Johnny Cueto, but that was they don't need to get a pitcher.
August
like
11, 2014, they traded Jason Adam to the Twins for Josh Willingham.
But he wasn't even on the postseason roster, I don't believe.
Jason Adam, Blue Valley North product. He went to high school around here somewhere. Bluma probably coached him.
He had some big home runs, though, down that stretch.
Now, Willingham had a hit in the wild card game.
Blue Valley Northwest.
Didn't he have a big hit in the wild card game? Yeah, he was on the roster. He made appearances. He had 4 bats in the postseason. But I remember he
have like zero recollection of
he
him.
had a hit.
Willingham?
He had a hit in the wild card game. I remember that. He's 1 for 1.
That's all that matters. Worth it. Worth it.
Yeah, see? That justified the trade.
Worth
Totes.
No, look, if you don't have anyone that's forcing the conversation, I get it, right. Start talking trade now. But you have someone forcing the conversation. You have someone performing at a level to where you can't ignore them for much longer. And that's Drew Waters. So it's time, and yes, is it time to at least consider a trade? Sure, consider it, think about it. But it is, I can tell you right now, it is time to have the Drew Waters conversation. So who does he replace? Since you're so anxious to make some moves, who does he replace? If not him, then who? If not me, then you. You can't just say things and then not have a plan. Tell me at least who you're replacing.
Well, my initial reaction would be MJ Melendez.
Oh, boy.
Because
pulling the plug on MJ so quick.
Who's got options?
I can't imagine Hunter Renfroe has any options as a veteran. I'm just thinking, like, from a pure baseball standpoint, if we're not thinking about big picture or anything like that, the other guys can at least play some, are plus defenders, right? Melendez is a minus defender, so he's really got to hit. That's the whole point with him. I just don't know how much longer you stick with it. I don't know what the right answer is to that, but I do think this is it for him. This year has got to be it. Like, he's up over 1,000 at bats now, so there's a body of work there, and his career OPS is 700.
I can tell you that if Kim Ng was still the GM with the Marlins, he'd be in Florida right now.
Right.
They were real close to making a move with him.
And now, like, I don't know that you can get what could you get for him? I mean, it's as you said, it's early.
The difference was she was one of the few in baseball at the time that still thought of him as a guy that could catch. And not every GM considers him a catcher anymore, right? I mean, the Royals don't.
I would say probably nobody does now that he's not even catching this year.
Right.
So, maybe you stick with him for another month. But if it's just about if it's just about trying to win a game, maybe you mix and match and go with the matchups. But Waters is a plus defender. Isbell's a good defender. Renfroe's a much better defender than Melendez. So
he's got a sandwich now too, so you got to factor that in.
That's important. We like the sandwiches. But at the same time, I feel like, I don't know how much. I think I would want to probably give Melendez a little bit longer to see if he can figure something out. I mean,
you're arguing with you just the one that just said Benjamin Melendez. Now you just said you give him longer. So what are you arguing for here?
I don't know,
sir.
I guess what I'm arguing for is maybe now's not the time. If you bring up Drew Waters, maybe you just rotate the guys.
Man, I don't know what you're doing right now.
I don't know what I'm doing.
you want to make a trade right now. And I said, well,
No. I
don't
said,
you want to give Drew Waters a chance?
I said if they're still in contention, maybe like in a month from now. I don't know that I'm making a big move right now,
Well,
unless something
you,
falls in your lap.
Before you make a trade, you have to have the Drew Waters conversation.
Sure. Yeah. Who would you put him in for?
Nobody yet. I'm not there yet.
You're just having the conversation right now.
Right. I'm thinking strongly about it. Aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, like if you just look at the numbers, they're just not getting anything from their outfield right now. I mean, MJ's hitting 183 with a 248 on base. He's slugging below 360 now. Renfro's hitting 161. I probably put him in for Renfro. For now. Renfro's 32. He's not a part of the future or anything. I think it really goes to show you how good this pitching's been and how clutch their hitting has been, that they're 6 games over 500, well, they're getting really nothing out of their outfield whatsoever, and not much from DH either.
If you're wondering, Drew Waters threw 90 at bats down at AAA, and again, he's still only 25 years old. He's hitting .322 with a .408 on base and a .941 OPS. 3 homers, 15 ribbies, 6 steals.
Love to see that.
That's someone forcing the conversation.
Yeah. And it's not like any of the guys up here are forcing the conversation why they should keep their job.
So that would be the next that would be the next step before you start talking about trading. Then examine the Marlins roster and see who they want to purge. Right?
Yeah.
Because they're already done. They've already made the first somewhat big move. So they've signaled that they're ready to roll. But I don't think.
Isn't it nice to not be in that situation?
Sure. Because they already traded Luis Arias to the Padres. And so they're open for business. But hey, Drew Waters, they thought enough to trade a draft pick for Drew Waters. And he's raking. Jake, how long do you wait?
Oh, a couple more weeks, but yeah, I think you're looking. Your eyes up. I mean, I'm kind of looking at early trade deadline predictions.
I'm looking here at I don't know the Marlins roster that well, but I'm looking at left fielder Brian De La Cruz, who's arbitration eligible after this year. They still have him until 2028 if they want to pay arbitration level money.
Mm-hmm.
But 733 career on base, OPS. Better than what they've got right now.
Yeah, they've got some options. If you're not getting enough production at DH, you can still take a look at C.J. Alexander. He's performed well at AAA. So these are a couple of guys, but Drew Waters is the one that sticks out. Drew Waters is, as long as he's hitting at that level and forcing the conversation, you got to have it. Now, look, they're winning games, and what they're banking on is, look, Melendez is going to get hot. Not all these guys can continue to be slumping like this altogether. They're going to get, and when they get hot, then things are going to turn around. But the trick is, how long do you wait? I mean, they're winning games right now, so there's no reason to panic.
The White Sox have anybody in their outfield that's worth a damn? I mean, obviously the teams. I mean, they were done a month ago.
Right.
Yeah, no, I'm not suggesting panic at all. I'm just suggesting that, like, hey, it might. It's kind of fun to daydream that, like, it might be worth trying to acquire a player.
Oh yeah,
I think absolutely you have to have the discussion.
sure. But I would like to see them take a spin with
Yeah.
Drew Waters. I just don't know who'd he replace yet. Who do you want to give up on?
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's a rotation. I'm not ready to give up on MJ yet, but I don't know, man. In another month, if it's still going like this.
I'm looking at a top 10 list of early trade candidates. Outfield DH, Chicago White Sox, Eloy Jimenez.
Gavin Sheets.
He's putting up some decent numbers.
I wonder what the relationship like is there with the White Sox to trade with them.
Hey, Chris Getz and JJ are buds, right?
Are they? I mean, are they?
I don't know.
You assume? I don't know. That's
They seemed like they were when I used to visit with JJ in the front office.
all right.
Getzy was there. They seemed like they got along very well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Two guys right there.
No
I mean,
idea.
Would both those guys upgrades? I mean, also on the other end, it's like, what are they going to be asking for?
Yeah.
Well, the good thing is right now the Royals are still winning games and they're competitive despite the lack of production from outfield and DH.
Yeah, so let's hope they just keep that up. And then they have decisions to make when you get a little closer to trade deadline time.
But if Drew Waters keeps hitting, then he needs
Have a shot.
chance.
Yep.
Yeah.
He needs a look.
Well, that's the best thing. You want the guys to force conversation. He's doing that.
It's a lot more fun talking about adding to your team to get better than
Right. Where we were last year at this time.
yeah.
And again, let's focus on who did deliver. Again, Cole Reagans, stud. Michael Garcia comes through with a huge 2-run single to give the Royals a lead. Michael Massey broke the dam with a home run.
That bullpen.
Michael Massey was an upgrade. Michael Massey,
Love him.
Again,
Got him up there.
because there's some people that want to poo-poo him before he even gets up here.
Poo-poo to you.
Right. I could tell you that the Royals think very highly of Michael Massey. And to see him hit with power and immediately upgrade the position offensively. And remember, hey, look, and he did win a Gold Glove in the minors, which was good for all levels. I like the
He's
kid.
spring power.
Yeah. Our friend Bill has suggested Garrett Hampson is the man that, at least for a roster spot, that the
Bring Powell.
Royals can move on from.
Yeah, and then one of the things that Q has shown is he'll rotate guys, pick the right matchup, give MJ a day off here.
Yeah. What I don't want is Drew Waters to get called up to sit.
No, nope. I don't think they'll do that.
We will. You know what? I'll listen to you. We'll take a break.
Let's take a break.
Because when we come back, we'll talk about how Ant-Man put a clown suit on Jokic because of Nate's stance taken in the show yesterday. Jared Sutton tried to tell him. I tried to tell him. He resisted. Living in yesteryear. But this is Ant-Man's world now.
Hey, Jake's in lockstep with me on this.
Bro,
We're
it's
together
fine.
on this one.
But
Buddy.
see, we're talking about
I'm in
now.
Jake's. I should have known I was in trouble
We're
when
not talking about a couple years ago.
I'll take a strain.
I had the chance to back away because Jake jumped in front of me and said Jokic, and I was like, oh, I could have right then. That should have been the red flag.
It's almost like the T-Wolves got wind of that conversation. Like, oh, really?
Like I had the chance to agree with Jarrett Sutton or Jake, and I chose Jake.
106-80. The T-Wolves embarrassed the Nuggets last night. Good God. We'll take a break back into this on WHB.
I mean, for us, I think the message we want to send is that, we're extremely honored and blessed that we have this opportunity to go home up 2-0, but we're humble in this approach. We understand that we put ourselves in a great position, but as great as the position we are in, it could be very bad at the end of being on our homestand. So we just got to go out there, take care of business, do what we do, play defense at a high level, and execute even at a higher level, because the defending champions, you can't give them a minute of slippage at all in the game. So we got some things to work on, things to tighten up on practice, and we got 3 days to really work on our game and work on our game plan. So to the fans, your support is super important for us to find different ways and then get that energy Friday night and Sunday. So definitely come out and support.
No, not at all. It worked in our favor tonight, man. That's all that was. We made shots, they didn't. That's the defending champs over there, so they're not going to come out and play like that again in Game 3. We got to be ready to take their punch. And I always tell the team, like when we huddle up and Finchy say, we got to be ready to take their punch, I say, we're going to punch too. I mean, they're not the only one punching in the fight. So, I mean, yeah, just like that. They're not the only one that's going to come out punching. I don't give a damn if we go up 3-0 for the Game 4, we're going to come out punching too. So they got to be ready to take our punch, and we'll be ready to take their punch. But, yeah, I don't see no slippage in their games. They just missed shots tonight. They'll be ready to go Game 3, and we will be.
Karl Anthony Towns and Ant-Man. I like him. He's got that. I don't like to throw names out there. He's got that it factor.
Killer instinct.
Well, Sutton said it. No, I don't want to say it. It makes you too happy. That Mamba mentality.
That's right.
As much as I didn't like Kobe when he was playing, I use that a lot with Sel when we talk about basketball. When we talk about, making the transition to playing high school basketball. And I said, you know what they mean when they talk about that Mamba mentality, right? Where you just have to have that edge, that willingness to finish, and have, play with emotion, little anger, don't back down. There's something to it.
There's a lot to it. I mean, and it's also his crazy amount of preparation. He prepared himself. No one was better prepared than Kobe. And so he could play with that killer instinct, that utter confidence, because he knew nobody's worked as hard as I can. And no one will outwork me. No one will, that's the Mamba mentality. Utter killer instinct with confidence, because I've put myself in the best position and nobody's done what I've done.
See, like when you describe that, that's how I feel about Mahomes. Right? Like no one's going to outplay him in the fourth quarter when he's got the ball at the end of the game in the postseason. It's like you sit back and go, oh boy. And look, I'm not extending this debate. I'm just speaking from my perspective now. That's what it was like when I used to watch Jordan rooting against him. But like in the final couple of minutes, like, oh my God, please don't let him get the ball. Oh my, it would be such a, if you were rooting against him, such a horrific, stomach churning experience.
Oh, I lived it too.
But even if you're just a basketball fan, if you weren't rooting for or against him, you'd want to watch it. Close game, last 2 minutes, Jordan. We have that right. Before we get into the magic, well, not the magic, but the what happened between the T-Wolves and the Nuggets, I watched the Knicks and the Pacers game. It's funny, we've been talking about how the NBA, how much, how it's different, and you see so many like scoring records, and I feel like there's so many different guys that are triple doubles in the playoffs and scoring 50 and scoring 40, and it's like, this is great, man. It's not taking anything away from it, but it's just like it's happened so much more often now than it used to, and so you kind of have to adjust because the statistics are just like through the roof, right? And I'm watching it, and did you watch the end of the Knicks and Pacers game?
I saw it, yeah.
That huge foul that they called
The moving screen.
Right.
Yeah.
And DiVincenzo went flying, and he sold it well, right?
He sold it.
I can't remember who the announce crew was. You have to help me. But they just said, he goes, man, isn't this crazy? We're watching the Knicks and the Pacers, and we think back to the 90s and how physical that series was. And then you look at that, and they call that a foul in the final minute of the game with the game on the line. They would have never called that. And look, and hey, look, they did challenge it, and they did review it, and they called it a foul. But their point was they wouldn't have called it years ago. And there is a difference.
Oh, yeah, there's an intentional difference.
Everything's getting called, and they're reviewing everything. And they're like, if you watch the Knicks and the Pacers back then, nothing. How do they say it? Not taking anything away from this series, but this is a very different brand of basketball than what we were brought in the 90s. Is it better or worse? I don't know. It's just much different, right? And so, for example, Jalen Brunson's a stud. There's no doubt about that. But he put up 43 points, and so he becomes the fourth player. And we don't talk about Brunson. Maybe they were chanting MVP last night. We don't talk about Brunson being an all-time great. We don't ever talk about Brunson hardly at all, even as far as being one of the best players in the NBA. Jared Sutton talks about him a lot. We talk about him a lot on our House of Hustle podcast. But this example, Brunson scored 43 points, becoming the fourth player in NBA history with 4 straight 40-point games in the postseason. Who are the other 3? They showed the graphic of the game last night. Jordan is one of them. And he happened to do it in the 1993 NBA Finals. Which, good God, man. Who are the other 2?
Wilt?
Nope. No. This guy had 6 consecutive 40-point games.
Bird?
No. Before. You won't get it. The logo.
Oh, Jerry West.
Jerry West. And then Bernard King.
Yeah, that was Stan Van Gundy. I think that's who it was last night with Brian Anderson and Chris Haynes.
And I get it. I get what he's saying. You know, it's a different brand of basketball. It can still be very entertaining. But that's why I just caution people. There's so many unbelievable stats being thrown up. And 40 and 50-point games and triple-doubles, and it just wasn't as prevalent back in the day, so it's not, it's not the same.
It's just like the NFL. I mean, as much as we hate John Elway, you hear young people that never watched John Elway play throw out his numbers and try to compare it to quarterbacks in today's NFL. They're not playing the same game. The game has changed, and the league's decided we want more offense. We don't want this to be a wrestling match out on the court. We're going to change the way we call the game. Just like in the NFL, we want our quarterbacks to stay healthy. We don't want guys getting pile-drived into the ground the way Joe Montana used to. We want these guys staying on the field, so you can't touch them now. We want the wide receivers to be able to use their speed and athleticism, so you can't grab them all over the field the way that you used to. They change the rules. And so while we talk, Patrick Mahomes is putting up the best numbers, and I do think Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback to ever live. It isn't fair to compare his numbers to the numbers of generations in the past because they're playing a different game. It's the same with the NBA. The NBA, they decided after a while, this is getting too physical. This is turning into a brawl, and we're not able to showcase the skill and athleticism of these players. And it is kind of a crazy concept to think about, what would Jordan have looked like in this NBA? Where you can't mug him all over the court the way the Pistons
do whatever he wanted.
Because all those teams were physical as hell in the East back then.
That's really the only way you could stop them.
Right.
I mean, hammer him.
And so and people will try.
You couldn't even. I mean,
people on my side will try to say, well, look at all the threes that LeBron hits compared to Jordan. But that was the different game back then. If 3-pointers were as important then, Jordan would have become a great 3-point shooter the way these guys all are now. I do believe that. I mean, I'm with you. It's a different game. It's apples to oranges in a lot of ways. So
they're still an entertaining game.
Yeah. I mean, I like the brand of basketball. The Pacers play an exciting brand of basketball.
You like Stephon Marbury jumping up and down repeatedly watching the game.
I like Starbury.
Yeah, I know. He was all fired up.
But you look around, there are these amazing shot makers. Now, what I think is crazy about what Brunson did last night is he went for over 40. He hit 1 3-pointer.
That's what the Knicks play old man basketball
You
a lot,
know?
man.
He's got that mid-range jump shot down that, like, supposedly a lost art.
How do you think it makes? And maybe they don't care, but they should have, especially when they played the 76ers. But how do you think? What do you think it was like for 76ers fans, who I'm sure most of them are Villanova fans, to watch the Nova 3 in the NBA playoffs carve their hearts out and beat them? That's good, right?
Yeah.
Didn't that have to be a wild experience?
Well, I'm curious how many.
Because you're watching the Knicks like Villanova.
Like how many people in Philly are Villanova fans too?
But everyone in Philly's a Villanova fan, you would think.
Yeah, I mean, I would think a large portion.
Right. I mean, there's got to be a huge crossover of 76ers fans or Villanova fans. It's in Philly.
That's got to be.
But it's got to be, that had to be brutal to watch those three guys that you love from what they did at Villanova.
Oh yeah.
Just to carve you to pieces in the NBA. Because Philly hates New York and New York hates Philly. That's just how it is.
Sure.
Even if you're not playing them. Who do you think Philly's rooting for right now? The Pacers.
Yeah.
And then you watch. You're just watching these guys from Villanova just dominate. What did they say? They scored the last 34 or 36 of the last 38 points. It was all from Villanova guys. That's crazy, right?
Villanova Knicks, baby.
It's also awesome, but
It's kind of fun seeing the Knicks be good. They've been so terrible for so long.
no, I like the way they play,
Yeah.
and I like the Nova 3. I like them.
Oh, heck yeah. Watched them kick the crap out of my Jayhawks in the tournament. That wasn't so fun, but
Jake
I always
likes
appreciated
seeing
their team.
Tracy Morgan there. Jake loves all
That's
of it.
my guy.
Yeah, he was there.
I love that guy.
He was there courtside, all fired up. He was with Fat Joe, and who else was he with? Did you see? There was.
Yeah, I can't remember who they. I remember seeing him.
50 Cent. It was 50 Cent, Tracy Morgan, and Fat Joe.
Not as good as when 15 Cent hosted the the roast the night before.
And then Marbury was under the he's under the basket, going crazy.
Going crazy.
By the way, let me tell you something. Not to promote another radio show, but Nikki Glazer, just hours after being one of the stars of the roast, went on with Howard Stern. It was such an incredible interview, and she read some of the jokes that she didn't tell.
I saw some of that on
Right,
Twitter.
and then she talked about what was off, and I guess Brady really did get pissed off about the Robert Kraft thing, and she said, I was thinking about doing some massage jokes, but then we decided, and she was even, I talked to with our writers. Like, there's a bunch of writers involved in everything else. Like when we just said, you know what, we're not gonna do that. He's this old guy. He's gonna be there. We're not gonna do it. And the other thing, and did you know what else was off limits? They decided, and they left some meat on the bone there. The Tom Brady kissing his son. Remember that picture or whatever?
Yeah.
And they decide, you know what, the kid, he's a little kid. He'd take heat for it at school. We're not there to roast him. We're there to roast Tom Brady. It was just interesting to hear her talk, to have the
I heard that the
discussions
kids
of
were
what,
off limits,
what was and what wasn't.
I went back and watched her since I missed it live. I went back and watched it last night.
She's great. She was
My
great.
boyfriend
but
of 10 years.
It was so interesting to hear her. But it was even more than that. It was a fascinating interview. But also just to hear her talk about the process of preparing and how she went to, and worked on the set and worked on her jokes. And she was like somewhat terrified to say some of the things that she said, because she goes, but I think I'm outside the window where I'm not going to get canceled now, but I'm not sure. And so but I think we're good. And so it was a really interesting, if you're interested in the process of, and the behind the scenes of what that was. It was very good.
Yeah, I need to watch that because just having done the one roast with you, the Grunhard roast, it is stressful, honestly, thinking about,
try doing it that was easy back then. Try doing it now that you're sure like, I don't.
Yeah. Well,
should I say this or am I going to get posted?
It was also like, I feel like I know Grunny well enough to know, where I can go and what, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
You're roasting, like, when you were like, hey, you're going to help roast Duron Chair, it's like, nope.
I had a couple, I've had a couple of people. I had like one ex-Chiefs player that two former Chiefs players, they got all pissy with me. One of them, everyone can guess.
Right.
The other one, this is like, I hate to tell you this, dude, but you're just be glad I even mentioned you. Sorry.
Yeah.
You should be glad you're even being mentioned in this roast.
Yeah.
I thought I was being nice by including you, but now I'll never mention your name again. Pissy.
You have to have. You gotta have a sense of humor about yourself.
If you're going to a roast,
I mean,
and you're going to be there at the roast, you better have a sense of humor. Or guess what? You shouldn't be at the roast.
Yeah.
That's fine. Don't have a sense of humor, but stay home from the roast.
Right.
That's all.
Yeah.
That's real simple. All right? You don't be outraged because you're at a roast. You're at a roast. You're there.
Yeah, you signed up for it.
We'll be back after this on Sports Radio 810 WHB.